What's up, Creamers? It's your host, Joe. And I'm here to talk to Turkey like Ted Turner about some wrestling.
There are some people that have insomnia, and when they get up and click around for something to watch, we'll be the only thing on.
We're going to get into the New Japan, New Beginning show from this morning in Osaka, Japan. We're going to talk about Okada versus Tanahashi. We're going to talk about Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. We're going to talk about the IWGP World Tag Team Championship match. And we're going to talk about, of course, the Steel Cage match, Will Ospreay's final match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. All that on this episode of Room. Welcome back yet again, Creamers. On this episode, I'm gonna grab the world of professional wrestling by the balls and do whatever the hell I want. I watched New Japan Pro Wrestling's New Beginning in Osaka this morning. I did not wake up at 3 a.m. and watch it live as I intended, so I didn't have English commentary, but it doesn't take away from the matches that much. Really barely notice it. I ended up waking up at about 8 a.m. and because I have another show to work on today, and I'd like to get this video out today, and trust me, this is probably for the best. I did not watch the entire show, and I'm sorry, guys. I know. Hey, whoa, hey, whoa. Hey, whoa.
Hey, listen! I'm sorry, okay.
But I did watch Kazuchika Okada versus Tanahashi, which was Okada's final match in New Japan. I watched the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match between Hikuleo and El Phantasmo, defending against Kenta and Chase Owens. I watched Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but by God, those boys could wrestle. And then I watched the main event, which was the Steel Cage match between United Empire and the Bullet Club War Dogs, which was the main event of the show and also Will Ospreay's last match in New Japan. So let's get into it. Before the match, they showed a video package with like sad piano music, and it sort of showed the like history between Okada and Tanahashi. And 12 years ago, actually, it was the New Beginning show from February 12th, 2012. Where Okada defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi to become the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion for the very first time, which was essentially Tanahashi passing the torch to Okada and him becoming the new ace of New Japan. So fast forward 12 years, and now nearly 12 years to the day, Kazuchika Okada is facing Tanahashi again in his final match in New Japan. It was a very good match. Kazuchika Okada was sort of wrestling heelish in this match. You know what I mean? He would early on he overpowered Tanahashi, pushed him into the ropes, and then he put his arm back as if he was going to slap him in the chest, but then he didn't. Instead, he kind of tapped him on the chest and he backed off because he respects Tanahashi. But as the match went on, he started resorting to dirty tactics. Okada put Hiroshi Tanahashi up on the top ropes, and then he drop-kicked him out of the ring. And then he went out of the ring, and he put Tanahashi's head in between two bars of the barricade. And then he drop-kicked the barricade. The crowd started booing Okada in his final match in New Japan. So then, they get back in the ring, and Kazuchika Okada gets Tanahashi down, and he steps on his chest, and the crowd boos yet again. When he goes for a kick, Okada catches his leg, and then does a dragon screw. Okay? Now Okada's on the offense. A few moments after that, Okada hits the ropes, runs at Hiroshi Tanahashi, but Hiroshi Tanahashi goes for a kick again. Okada catches it, And before he could hit the dragon screw, Hiroshi Tanahashi this time has learned from his past mistake and clocks Okada in the face. He gives him a
punch to the face.
Kazuchika Okada then starts toying with Tanahashi, and he waits for him to get up, and then he puts his jaw out like this, like as if he's like, come on, hit me, you know? The crowd starts booing again. Eventually, Okada ends up hitting a Death Valley driver, and it's a vicious Death Valley driver. He goes for the pin and the 1-2 kick out. Then Okada gets up, he does the Rainmaker pose, you know, so then the camera zooms out. He goes for the Rainmaker, but Tanahashi reverses it with a sling blade. The crowd starts chanting, Tanahashi, Tanahashi. So then Okada lifts up Hiroshi Tanahashi and is going to attempt to do a tombstone. But Tanahashi gets out of it and does like a snap swinging neck breaker. Tanahashi runs at Okada, but Okada catches him and attempts a Rainmaker, which Tanahashi tries to reverse, but ends up right back in the Rainmaker position, which Okada attempts again, but Tanahashi counters it with a Dragon Suplex. The crowd is fired up, and so is Tanahashi. He gets up to his feet, and so does Okada. He hits the ropes and grabs Okada into a chokehold, which the referee yells at him for. Okada throws Tanahashi into the ropes, but Tanahashi hits another sling blade. Tanahashi goes to the top and attempts a frog splash, but Okada gets the knees up, and now the crowd is starting to chant for Okada. Okada hits a running shotgun dropkick and grabs Tanahashi's arm and hits a clothesline. Tanahashi slaps Okada in the face while Okada is still holding on to Tanahashi's arm. Then he hits him in the face again. Okada let goes of his arm. He hits the ropes, and Okada counters with a drop kick. Okada goes for another tombstone, and he hits it this time, and then he screams. He goes for another Rainmaker, but Tanahashi reverses it. 1-2 kick out. Okada attempts another tombstone, but Tanahashi gets out of it. They both have like a waist lock on each other at the same time. Now Tanahashi goes for a tombstone, but Okada gets out of it and hits a cradle shock. He finally hits the Rainmaker and gets the 3 count. Okada wins his final match in New Japan. After the match, they hug, and Okada cries. Tanahashi says something in Okada's ear, and Okada nods and cries. He waves goodbye to the crowd as they chant Okada, Okada. And that's the last match of Kazuchika Okada in New Japan. It was a hell of a match, and a good send-off for Okada as things came full circle in his career in New Japan. Next up, we had the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Title match between El Phantasmo and Hikuleo defending against Chase Owens and Kenta from the Bullet Club. To save time, I'm not going to say too much about this match. I will say that towards the end of the match, there was some funny business, okay? Hikuleo and El Phantasmo both ended up getting hit in the face with a belt, or while the referee was outside of the ring because he was pulled out by Chase Owens. Kenta ends up getting the pin, and we have new IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, Kenta and Chase Owens from the Bullet Club. So now, the Bullet Club has the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles and the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag titles. And now, guys, whoa boy, we have the Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. match. They show a video package to get you hyped up for the match where they remind you that both men very much want to make the other man tap out. The rivalry that these two men have is based on the pride that each of them feel for being the best wrestler in the world. Is that guy truly better than me? I don't think so. So both men want to win this match by submission. This is their second match in recent memory. I guess they wrestled when Zack Sabre Jr. was like an 18-year-old young boy, but now they're wrestling again for the second time since both of them have had storied careers. Both men are even in this match, and there was like a million submissions in this match. So Bryan Danielson, he wears like on his gear, he has like a pattern of chains like designed onto his gear. I never really thought anything of it. And then when I'm watching this match, I realized why. It's because of all the goddamn chain wrestling that this guy is up to. So this match was submission city, baby. A lot of the times, they would have a submission on each other at the same time. And while they were having a submission on each other at the same time, they were trading strikes. If you only watch one wrestling match in this entire year, it should be this Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson match. It's a classic match. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time, wanting to see who was going to make the other guy tap. Like, every once in a while, one of them would roll the other up into a pin, and you knew because you know that both these guys want to make each other tap, that the only reason they're going for a pin is because they're desperate, because they're a little bit unsure that they can get the victory. And they're also a little bit sure that if their opponent wanted to roll them up or get them into a submission, they might be donezo. So every time there was a pinfall, it was like, because you know that he doesn't really want to win that way, but he just wants to get this match over with because he's kind of a little afraid he might not win. Both guys. And I'm not talking about either of them specifically. The rivalry between these guys feels real. I believe Bryan Danielson when he's talking trash to Zack Sabre Jr., and I believe Zack Sabre when he shrugs off Danielson's strikes just to get in his head. There was a lot of trash talking. That was one of the things that made this match so believable, is because throughout the match, while they're doing these things to each other, they're talking shit. You know what I mean? Like, there's a point where Bryan Danielson had Zack Sabre Jr.'s legs as if he's going to do a Mexican surfboard, and Zack Sabre was close enough to reach the ropes, and Bryan Danielson was like, "Grab the ropes, Zack, grab the ropes," because he was being cocky, and Zack Sabre Jr.'s like, "Nope, I don't need to grab the ropes." So then Bryan Danielson jumped up and like slammed his knees into the canvas. If this was the first wrestling match I'd ever seen in my life, I would think wrestling is 100% real. That after a series of roll-ups and pin attempts in a chain wrestling fashion, Bryan Danielson's shoulders were pinned to the mat, 1, 2, 3, and Zack Sabre Jr. won the match. Now, once the pinfall happened, I was literally at the edge of my seat, but I was also trying not to wake up my wife. But I was like, oh, like I was quietly popping my tots off, bro. After the match, both men are beat up, exhausted, and because it was like 100 miles an hour, you know, and Zack Sabre Jr. scoots up to Danielson, and they're both on the ground, and he puts his arm out for a handshake, and Bryan Danielson shakes his head, gets up, and walks away. But after a few steps, he turns around and walks up to Zack Sabre Jr., and he extends his hand. They shake hands, and Bryan Danielson quickly raises Zack Sabre Jr.'s hand up and then puts it back down and walks away. I got the sense from this that, like, Bryan Danielson respects Zack Sabre Jr. He's being a good sport about the loss, but he's also incredibly angry that he didn't beat this guy that he really thought he could beat. So now both men have one victory over each other in what I believe is going to be a trilogy. And because neither man has made the other man tap out, my guess would be that the third match is going to be a submission match, and I am all there for it. I enjoyed this match so much that I decided I'm going to, from now on, have a Dave Meltzer 5-star rating type of thing. And so this match, the very first recipient of my ratings, I award it a perfect 5 cups of coffee. So after Bryan Danielson left, Zack Sabre Jr. Signaled as if he's going for the gold, and he looked into the camera and said, "Naito, I'm coming for you, dickhead." And then he buggered off. I don't know if I'm misreading this, but I kind of get the feeling that Zack Sabre Jr. may be being groomed to be the next top gaijin of New Japan. So all we have left to talk about is this main event, guys, and it was over an hour long. So I'm sure you understand when I say that we are going to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the main event steel cage match between the Bullet Club War Dogs and United Empire. Don't you go anywhere.
Hola, mi por favors. It's me, Hot Joe from Room for Cream. Do you enjoy a delicious taco as much as I do? Well, go on down to Danny's Drippin' Wet Tacos, and if you go down to Danny's Drippin' Wet Tacos after today, or during the day, you know, in a little bit, in an hour, you can get a delicious 3 Drippin' Wets for $1. So wet. So head on down to Danny's Drippin' Wet Tacos in an hour or within an hour, and you're gonna get 3 delicious tacos, 3 delicious Drippin' Wets, and you're gonna get 3 Drippin' Wets for $1, amigo. You won't just get one drippin' wet. You'll get 2 drippin' wet. You'll get 3 drippin' wet tacos for the price of $1 for 3 drippin' wets. I love drippin' wet tacos, and I love Danny. So head on down to Danny's Drippin' Wet Tacos today.
Definitely had a little bit too much coffee.
Welcome back to the show, Creamers. It's me again, Hot Joe. So this main event, boy oh boy, it was, I've seen a lot of violent, hardcore wrestling matches, and I've seen a lot of long wrestling matches, but very rarely do I see very long, very violent wrestling matches. So this match was similar to a War Games match, in as far as the rules go. So 2 men enter at first. Every 2 minutes, another guy from one team comes into the ring. Bullet Club has the advantage, so the first entrant after the third entrant after the first 2 guys is going to be a Bullet Club member. So the odds are either evened or stacked against the United Empire. So both men make their entrance, and Will Ospreay is wearing tights of the same design as Mitsuharu Misawa. Right before the match starts, Will Ospreay hops out of the ring. He grabs the microphone, or he says to David Finlay, I only get 2 minutes with you. If you're a real leader, why don't you give me 10 minutes? He's asking David Finlay if the first interval before another entrant comes into the match can be 10 minutes long. The crowd goes kind of crazy for this, like, holy crap. But then David Finlay signals 5 minutes. The crowd starts booing. Will Ospreay agrees. David Finlay was able to successfully negotiate Will Ospreay down to 5 minutes. So the bell rings, and they go at it. They trade the upper hand until the third entrant, which, even though it was 5 minutes, it felt like 2. But the third entrant comes out, and it is Drilla Maloney. As he's making his entrance, he's dragging Callum Newman down, and then he handcuffs him to the cage. Now, all the Bullet Club War Dogs guys are dressed in camo and like a little and like light war paint, as if they're Hulk Hogan's team from Fall Brawl 95's War Games match. But in this match, more realistically, the heels are the militant ones. They bash up Ospreay until the next entrant, which is United Kingdom's Hanare. He's a powerhouse and is able to beat up Drilla until David Finlay attacks him from behind. The Bullet Club War Dogs are definitely controlling the match with their barbarism. Ospreay gets up, and United Empire is able to start getting the upper hand. Right when this happens, the next entrant comes out, which is Clark Connors, and now the Bullet Club War Dogs again have the advantage. They end up overpowering United Empire, and they bring a table into the mix. They set it up in the corner, and it is not touched again for several minutes. They bust open Will Ospreay as they bash his face in. The next entrant is TJP, and he's able to bugger off the Bullet Club boys. He wraps barbed wire around his boot, and he pierces Connors in the face, and he brushes his barbed wire foot into him, and then he starts scraping his face with barbed wire, and then he hits the rope, and he runs and does like a running kick right to the face and head of Clark Connors. Outside of the ring, Will Ospreay is beating up Drilla Maloney and slamming him into the cage. This cage isn't like isn't like a part of the ring like a steel cage match normally is. It's outside of the ring like a Hell in a Cell. It surrounds the ring, but except it doesn't have a ceiling on it, and it's not that high. And it's like one of those blue steel cages from WWF, like those barred cages, but except it's black. The United Empire start getting the upper hand, and then what happens? Bullet Club gets another guy coming into the ring, and immediately the Bullet Club is in the lead again. This time, It's Alex Coughlin, who I've never seen before, and my God, this guy was impressive as hell. If you've never seen Alex Coughlin wrestle, he's tough. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. He's a tough son of a bitch. When he comes out to the ring, he's got his arms like this, and he's got like 10 steel chairs wrapped around his arms. He gets into the ring, and he starts beating the hell out of Will Ospreay and Hanare. He does like a back suplex to each of them, but he holds him up for a second before he drops down. And Hanare is not a small guy. Then, after he slams them down, he gets out of the ring and he picks up TJP and he lawn darts him into the cage. Then, the Bullet Club War Dogs start piling all those chairs that Coughlin brought onto TJP. And Hanare gets out of the ring and goes to try to save TJP, but then he gets hit with a chair, and then he gets Death Valley drivered onto all the chairs which are on top of TJP. So yeah, great job, Hanare. Next out is Francesco Akira, and to me, this guy is the MVP of the match. He is lightning quick. I mean, I've watched him wrestle. He was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Champions with TJP, but I think this guy, put the damn Junior Heavyweight title on him. Let him wrestle by himself. This guy is amazing. He's lightning fast. He's got heart. He's got fire and passion and fighting spirit, which we find out throughout this match because he's also on the wrong end of a lot of offense. So when he makes his entrance, he runs to the cage, and then he climbs up the cage, and he dives off of it onto all the Bullet Club War Dogs members, and now they're all knocked down. And that is the quickest time that the United Empire evened the odds in this entire match. He gets a kendo stick, and he goes after David Finlay. He ends up beating the crap out of Finlay. He gives him a nice kick to the peppers, and then he grabs a kendo stick, and he starts wailing on him some more. Then he grabs a steel chair and he throws it at David Finlay's head. I'm assuming he's just very upset what David Finlay did to him last weekend when when the Bullet Club powerbombed Akira onto a bunch of chairs. After he throws the chair at David Finlay, he turns right into a spear from Clark Connors through the table, set up into the corner. A bloodied Will Ospreay crawls into the ring to check on Akira, and he sees that he's just demolished. And then Clark Connors is standing right there, so he just starts bashing Will Ospreay as well. So this time, when the next Bullet Club member enters, they've already got the advantage. They're not coming out here and gaining the advantage. Next to the ring is Gabe Kidd, and he's brought a cart filled with more weapons, chairs. I think there was a table in there, a garbage can, and him and Clark Connors start throwing all the weapons into the ring. Then, of course, they use these weapons to punish Will Ospreay and his mates. Then they set up a ladder outside the ring, and no one ever ends up diving from it or anything like that. But I was like thinking, that's an odd thing to do because this is a cage match, and if you really wanted to leap onto people, you could climb the cage. You can climb the cage, boys. Now Will Ospreay, bloodied and battered, is in the ring by himself, and the Bullet Club members all get into the ring and crowd around him like vultures ready to pick the meat off the bone. They all start stomping on him, and then the final entrant of the match, Jeff Cobb, makes his entrance. As he's making his way to the ring, Drilla Maloney meets him halfway, but Cobb lifts him up and he runs and slams him into the cage and nearly knocks the dang thing down. And then at that moment I realized, oh, that's why nobody wants to climb and jump off of this cage. Gotcha. A ladder is probably best. He belly to bellies Gabe Kidd outside of the ring, and then Clark Connors dives and like flying crossbodies him, but he catches him, and then he throws him up into like a vertical suplex, and then he launches him forward like a dang rocket ship, and he lands on his front side on the apron of the ring. Cobb gets into the ring and he's face to face with Alex Coughlin, and they start punching each other, just repeatedly, back and forth, punch, and then Jeff Cobb throws Alex Coughlin out of the ring. While he's looking at Alex Coughlin, David Finlay comes into the ring from behind and he hits him in the back with a kendo stick. But in this moment, David Finlay learned that Jeff Cobb is not affected by kendo sticks. Cobb turns around slowly, and then he picks up David Finlay and F10s him, and then Ospreay gets in the ring, and him and Cobb have their way with him. Like in a wrestling way, like they beat him up.
I'm gonna get off by cranking your knob.
Rude and unprofessional.
Then they set up a fresh table in the corner, and Cobb attempts to slam David Finlay into that table. But then Alex Coughlin comes in, stops that from happening. Then Jeff Cobb goes for a tour of the islands. Coughlin gouges his eyes to get out of it. Now that he's blinded, he turns around, and Clark Connors goes to spear him through the table, but he senses it, and he moves out of the way, and Clark Connors spears the table. Both teams maul each other, and there's a spot where two Bullet Club guys, it's hard to tell who because they're both bloodied. Everybody in this match is bleeding. They both grab a different end of a ladder, and they go to run over Will Ospreay with it. But right before they hit him, he jumps back onto his back, and then he immediately kips up, jumps and springboards off the ropes into a backflip and kicks the ladder into them. You guys, this match was over an hour long, okay? War Games matches, like the lengthier part of the match is always before all members of the match get out. Like, you know, the match beyond, the part where you're allowed to win and get a victory, is usually the shortest part of the match. But not in this match, man. It was like 15 minutes until everybody was in the ring, and then the rest of the match was like an hour long, and there was never not action. Like it wasn't like there wasn't like a lot of sitting down and crap like that. They were literally just beating the hell out of each other and doing wild things to each other for this entire time. It was like watching a war. There were several points where David Finlay's prediction of the ring being a bloody mess of men came true, not just with the members of the United Empire, but also with them. There was literally a point where every single person in the match was in the ring knocked out, and it was a believable thing. It wasn't like corny or anything. They were putting each other through hell. So now they're all in the ring, they're all knocked out, and then they're slowly getting up and separating into separate corners from one another. The Bullet Club on one side, the United Empire on the other, and then they're like, you know, kind of circling around, and then they go at each other like the end of Avengers Endgame. You guys, listen, there's just so many spots in this match that there's no way I would have to keep pausing it and taking notes. And again, this match was over an hour long. It would have taken me all goddamn day. Eventually, the Bullet Club tore the canvas off of the ring, and a lot of times when I see this kind of thing happen, you know, it's just slamming guys onto wooden boards now, but when they did this, every single time someone took a step, a board gave out and like their leg went through it. Not every time, but like a lot. It didn't make it seem like, oh no, this ruined the match. It made it seem like, holy crap, there's a whole new level to what's making it difficult for each team to win this match. So what happens is the Bullet Club guys, they handcuff every member of the United Empire to the cage except for Will Ospreay and Francesco Akira. Will Ospreay is knocked out outside of the ring, and they all beat the crap out of Akira. He's bloodied and he's in the corner, and Will Ospreay crawls into the ring and he holds Akira as if he's dead. And you're like, man, you could see that he's expressing sorrow to his fellow teammates that they're all going through this on behalf of him. Now all the Bullet Club guys are standing in the ring, also bloodied and beaten, but united and not handcuffed to the cage. And Ospreay is like aware that this is the end. And again, he's holding Akira in his arms, and to protect him, he slowly shoves him out of the ring so that nothing bad could happen to him. Then David Finlay drops to his knees and puts his arms out, and he says, "Hit me, Will, hit me." Will Ospreay gets to his feet. The crowd is clapping and cheering for him, and he leans back and he goes for a strike, but he falls, and he lands right in front of David Finlay, who starts laughing. Then David Finlay lifts him up, and Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors hit their double team finish. David Finlay wraps barbed wire around his knee, and then he hits his finisher, which is like a vertical suplex, go to sleep. So, you know, he's kneeing barbed wire right into Will Ospreay's face. He pins Will Ospreay. 1, 2, 3. Bullet Club War Dogs win. Will Ospreay and the United Kingdom lose Will Ospreay's last match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. The Bullet Club guys celebrate. They two-sweet each other. David Finlay gets on the mic and he says, "The Bullet Club War Dogs run New Japan." And then he drops the mic, and then the Bullet Club leaves. Will Ospreay's team, the United Empire, they get unhandcuffed and they're all beaten up. They get in the ring and they help up Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay gets the microphone. The crowd is chanting, "Ospreay, Ospreay." so they're chanting his name so loudly that I feel like each and every member of the audience was mic'd individually. He gets on the microphone and he says, thank you. For the past 8 years, you guys have watched me grow from a boy to a man. And I'm gonna make you proud. Please don't forget me because I'll never forget you. I fucking love you. And I promise you, I will be back one day. Green and white confetti falls from the skies as Will Ospreay's theme and the sounds of the audience clapping along to the beat of it close out the show. I really enjoyed that match. It was very long, but it was never dull. I award that match 4 cups of coffee and 2 slices of brown sugar toast, which is what I ate while I watched this match. It was a great show. It was a great goodbye for Will Ospreay, a great goodbye for Kazuchika Okada, and I can't wait to see where these blokes go next. But I do know that wherever they do go, I'll be watching. So, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit share, go into your Gmail, and send it to everybody you know, and put in the subject, "Hey, watch this," or else. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you later in the week to talk to Turkey about some wrestling again. You stay creamy.
No butts, no cuts, no coconuts.